All right, welcome to the latest edition of the Sports Management Club Virtual Speaker Series. Today, we're stepping out of what we've been doing, kind of that normal space that we've been in, and we're going to step into the esports world today. Today, our guest is Brandon Sadler, and Brandon, he's a friend of mine. He's the founder and CEO of ROM Esports League out in New Jersey. And I've worked with him for a few years now on a couple of different things. And now I'm hoping to kind of work with him on this. But he's going to tell you a little bit more about it. But I wanted to introduce Brandon to you. And Brandon, I'm going to let you take it from there and tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, some of the things that maybe you did to get where you are, kind of who you work with, things like that.
Yeah, so I'm born and raised in New Jersey, and huge sports fan, football, basketball, but my true love is really basketball, and I really have really come to know that was actually my true love, which was basketball, is by finding out there's some opportunities within the sports industry that I was able to partake upon and get involved with, and that really going down that route really proved that basketball is just something that I really love. Even though I grew up playing football, but deep down in my heart, I was a huge basketball fan. So starting off, I mean, I went growing up. I have five brothers or four brothers together. It's five boys my mom had, and I always had a passion for gaming growing up because all of my brothers, we all just sat in the house, whether we were playing football outside, but when we came in the evening, we always had the opportunity to sit around TV and play video games. So that was something that I always loved doing, even to this day. Huge gaming guy, as you can see. But as I was growing up, I always had the yearning to try to get in some form of technology. And that really jumped off when I went into high school, and I was able to attend some of the career learning opportunities they had at my local VOTEC, which was Salem County Vocational School in South Jersey. And that really that opportunity right there going into that program showed me that technology is something that I really wanted to do, and I wanted to explore. Now, with all my other brothers, they went into other areas, whether it was a carpentry, electrician. They were really handyman, but me, I wanted to go down a path where I had to challenge my mind. And I was, every time I go into whatever environment that I was in, whether it's high school or some type of work that I was doing, I wanted to go in every day where I can challenge my mind. I really thought technology was able to do that. So as I joined, the Salem County Vocational School, I did 4 years of their information systems analyst, hardware and software. And then, I graduated from there, top of my class of the IT team. And as I was coming to the end of my senior year in high school, I was able to luckily get a job in IT where, it was I believe it was it's a job placement at the time was what they're calling, but now they're calling it, internship. So I was able to intern, in high school, on my second year of my high school year. And instead of going to class to get my grades, I was actually going to work to get my grade. And my supervisor was grading me on that. And so I was, right into the high school. The job placement with IT job doing the help desk analyst straight out of high school. And ever since then, I just continued to grow. And after that, I was there for about 3 years, left there and went to Amtrak. I'm not sure if a lot of you heard of Amtrak, but I was in their IT department working with their engineering and their electrician department and supporting all their applications. But I was only there for a year. There's different forms of IT. If any of you guys are taking up IT or know about the IT industry, there's different forms of IT. So I went down the role of supporting applications, but engineering and working with those type of applications that were developed was something I really wanted to do. So that's when I met my girlfriend at the time. Now is my wife, and we were talking about where our living location was going to be, and I decided I was going to relocate where she was at. So I started applying for different jobs, and fortunately, I was able to secure a job at the NBA as a contractor at first. it was a 10-month contract working in their IT department. And after the 10 month, they had the ability to bring me on full time or, in the contract. And then, they bring in the next person. But fortunately, I was able to come in and show them that I was serious about what I was doing. And I took every single day of that 10 month, every single day like it was my last. So I went in, grinded it out. If I had to pick up extra hours because some of their full time guys were calling out, I did that. I did everything that I showed to show the NBA that I really wanted the job to be full time. So after the 10 months was up, they approached me and said, "Hey, we want to promote you to full time. Are you interested?" And I was like, "For 100%, I would love to be full time." And that started the path to where I'm at now, to be honest. And working with the NBA for the 3 or 4 years that I was there was truly an honor. But they had some cutbacks within the IT department, and our group was actually impacted. And then after that, shortly before I left, I was approached by a company that I'm working for now, Genius Sports, and they offered me a role that obviously I could not resist because I was still showing up at the same work location, still doing the things I do with basketball, and I had to take it. So that's when I took that role, and I've been with Genius Sports for the last 3+ years, working with their software development team, supporting a proprietary software for the NBA.
So, kind of explain a little bit on that. You're talking about the proprietary software, right? Kind of explain a little bit on what kind of stuff do you do with that?
So I'm in charge of a team that supports and develops the life cycle of application that we use for collecting all the historical stats for every single basketball game. So what we do is, we pretty much support every single game, whether it's across the three leagues with the NBA, WNBA, or G League, and we support all the statisticians that use our software to capture all the historical stats for every single basketball game that there is. And whenever there's issues that the statistician reports, we take that information back, and we try to replicate whatever the issues that they are experiencing. And once we do that, we go down the pathway of presenting to the NBA what the next steps are to resolve the issues, and then put those the resolved issues into production to make sure that they don't impact the statisticians as they continue to enter the games for all the leagues.
So, just to give you a little background, that's how Brandon and I know each other really well. Being down in the bubble, I decided to print from the primary computer, and well, now I haven't lived it down since. Let's just put it that way. As I crashed the computer 30 minutes before tip. Yeah, let's just put that into perspective, gang. I crashed the computer 30 minutes before tip off. So, think about that for a minute. How much stress were we under at that point? But Brandon, so you've spent a lot of time in the software development side, and you're a gamer, right? So what kind of brought you to want to be in, I guess, that esports realm? I mean, you see a lot of people that are, they're part of an esports team that is nationwide or something like that, or worldwide, but you're doing something a little bit different with ROM. And kind of first talk about a little bit what brought you into it other than being a gamer yourself, and why did you want to kind of set something up for Jersey?
So, so what really wanted me to get into the realm of doing something within esports was obviously my huge passion for gaming. And as I was a gamer and continued to understand, gaming itself and how it was transitioning from, you sit at home all day and play video games to you're now selling out arenas and stadiums around the world just to see individuals compete on a level of them competing to win a cash prize or whatever the prize pool may be. And, as I continue to grow and understand the gaming industry and understand how it impacts not only, multiple generations, including my generations and now generations going forward, it's going to have a huge impact within our industry and honestly within the world itself, because it's a new industry itself. And there's a lot of opportunity within that industry because it's so brand new. So going back into why I decided to go into esports. So obviously, again, my huge passion for gaming. And then on top of that, I was thinking about, is there something I can do to try to get into esports? And so I did a lot of research and talked to a lot of people at a lot of different companies. And, the biggest issue that they ran into when it came to esports was trying to find appropriate talent for different professional teams. Now, as you can see it right now, professional teams, all they have to do right now is, they reach out to, Activision, or they reach out to EA Sports or whatever the big game developer companies are, and they say, hey, I want to give a list of the top 100 people that performed in this one particular area, because that's what a team is needing on their particular team at that given time. So whether it's a defensive player within 2K or someone who is a mastermind at, whatever type of weapon you may use within Call of Duty, they want to get those stats and they reach out to the game developer in order to get those. But there isn't a real good pipeline for finding up and coming talent from at the grassroots level all the way up into professional. So you have that with tennis, you have that with basketball, you have that with football, but there really isn't a solidified company out there that has the ability to find talent at the grassroots level, mold them and grind them out to get it to the point where they can find to, or sign with a professional team. And that's what we do at Round. We start at the grass level, and here at Round, we start out with building esports teams for towns that are interested throughout the state, and we host matches against other towns to find out who has the best team in the state to represent the state when it comes to a national title. And I think we have a good footprint in doing that, considering what we had to deal with over the last few months to represent not only the state of New Jersey, but also to overcome those hurdles, so to speak, when it comes to individuals who really don't know esports. They hear video games, and once they hear video games, it's like end of story. We're not having it. But trying to get in the door and have that conversation with those individuals so that they understand what esports is a hurdle. And again, that's what we had to deal with over the last few months here.
So so that would be the reasoning why you started and founded the league. But what kind of sets you apart, though, from, I guess, other leagues around the nation? Are there many like you? Are there many that are in that kind of space that you're in?
Yeah, so there are a few that do things that are similar to us. There are a lot of companies that are geared to just finding talent within the high school level, so to speak, right? They reach out to high schools and states, and they say, hey, this is a curriculum you should definitely want to do, because if private schools are hosting and having esports teams publicly, if you have students and the parents deciding, hey, if my kid wants to be a professional player or go down of a path of, managing a sports team, becoming a general manager of a sports team, becoming a coach of a esports team, and the public school doesn't have that option, these parents are now going to these public entities and saying, hey, I would rather pay X amount of dollars just to see my kid do what he wants to do in life. So now you have these companies that are popping up that are gearing to and reaching out to these high schools to make that curriculum available. And they're providing hardware, they're providing resources so that these high schools can do it. But for us, we decided to, also a part of, reaching out to the high schools. Hey, there's an opportunity for other amateurs who are not in high schools, who are looking to try to make a professional team, come to our location, join our league, and showcase their talent so that professional scouts have the ability to see these amateur players and see if they have what it takes to actually sign with a professional team.
So with that said, do you have any examples of other cities or locations that maybe are doing this?
Yeah, so California is really huge on doing this and trying to sign high school players. But from a perspective of finding individuals when it comes to high school, whether it's people who are not in high schools, there's really no companies out there doing it. You have your small pop-up hubs where you could come to our hub and sign up for X amount of hours to play video games with your friends or whatnot, but there isn't really no company out there that are setting up for amateurs to actually join a league and build a repository for their data, for their content, to provide to scouts or professional teams so that they can have the potential of signing with them. There's really not a lot of companies out there besides ours.
So with esports, it's been around for a very long time, but not in the mode it is today. I've been gaming since I was 8, and that was in 1986. So put some age on there, do some math there, and you can figure out how old I actually am. But what do you think needs improvement when it comes to the esports industry now? I mean, what you're doing with grassroots, you're saying that we're lacking grassroots. Well, is that one of the problems you see? What other things do you see as needing improvement?
A lot of the time I see, and that's a really good question. A lot of the times, what I see after working in the industry for the last couple years here is there isn't one, like you said, there isn't really a grassroots way or pipeline, so to speak, to uh, build esports and find esports players and mold esports players from the ground up. Right. With the basketball, you have the AAU. For tennis, you have multiple programs that do that. There's really not a program or pipeline, so to speak, to do that with esports because it's so brand new. So I think that is one issue in itself. And as when it comes to sponsorships and partners, considering, and I think this may be chucked up because it's just a brand new industry that is jumping off. There's really not a lot of companies that understand again esports to have sponsors and partnerships within the esports industry itself. Now, there's a lot of technology companies that are doing sponsorships and partnerships, but when it comes to you know maybe food products or car product, car dealerships or things of that nature, there's not a lot of companies that are partnering with your big leagues like football, basketball, soccer, of that good deal. But again, this may be chucked up just because the industry is so young. But again, sponsorships and partners with big companies when it comes to brand activation, that is something that's really impacting esports, and I think it's going to change because you can see this year with the COVID and everything shutting down, and you see that esports still survives because within a blink of an eye, you can have your players run matches right from their homes because a lot of the players, they're getting paid, their internet connection is top notch, and they're getting paid right from the team itself. So as they transition to remote tournaments, esports was like the main company or industry that kept viewership up, and that from the articles that I was reading with ESPN, which is a beautiful article, their viewership was up, I think, 30% over the last 7 months. And you can see that when you turn on ESPN in July and you're seeing the 2K League being televised on on cable TV. You have the FIFA tournaments being broadcasted as well. And then also the NASCAR. It's really remarkable how esports was really put on the map this year. And I think from here on out, esports is really going to be here for the long haul. But improvements, it's a lot of them, but they're the two main ones. There's really no pipeline for the grassroots players, and then on top of that, there's really no partners and sponsorships when it comes to brand activations for a lot of these esports companies and teams.
So that makes me wonder with your unique setup that you have in Jersey. What are you doing about the remote side of things? This is a question that comes from my own head.
Yeah.
You went remote during COVID, and are you going to keep doing remote, or are you going to stick to that grassroots inside your arena, so to speak?
So there's we get this question a lot when we talk to particular partners that we want to try to have partnerships with, and considering the impact that we've suffered with the COVID pandemic, and we're fortunate to we were able to stay afloat. We were talking to our sponsors at HyperX, DX Racer, Zoe. We were telling them because of the roadmap that we have with expanding our company across the country. They said, do we predict that this is really going to impact our company considering COVID? Because it's really tough to have people come out when they're not feeling safe to meet in groups. You know what I mean? So with that, I think the biggest hurdle that we have is finding, considering that we're starting at the grassroots level, with amateurs, so to speak. It's trying to solidify if they have the proper hardware at home to join and to participate in these tournaments. Again, a lot of these tournaments is right here from our facilities because we want to mold these players to get it to the level where they're able to play these tournaments in front of thousands of people and against opposing teams. We want to mold them that way, and doing that remotely, we really don't have that ability to do that because everyone's back at home, and it's as if you're playing your video games with your friends like on a normal day, and that's something that we're trying to avoid. But then again, that's something that we have to take in consideration because we want to make sure that we're operating in a safe way and that all of our teams, players, coaches, and scouts are doing so in a way that it's abiding by the state regulations when it comes to COVID. And on top of that, we want to make sure that they don't have anything that can impact other players that are coming into our facilities as well.
And of course, being East Coast, Jersey, they got hit hard in the beginning and locked down, so things were a little bit different than what you guys have seen here, or throughout the Midwest. You're seeing it now more than they are. But so, with that said, right, does that mean you're going to avoid doing that, or are you going to kind of try to find a way to mold the two together, to make it more of a nationwide audience and really put ROM on the map?
Yeah, so we are definitely the main road, the main vision that we have here at ROM. Talking with a lot of our senior leaderships that we have a part of my team to help us get to where we're at right now. I think the main vision that we have is to make sure that we continue with the vision that we currently have, which is expanding our brand across the whole country and opening up these type of esports facilities in every single town, right? So we have, Pennsylvania is on the map. New York is on the map. We want to make sure that we complete the tri-state first. And, talking with our sponsors and partners again at HyperX, DX Racer, and Zoe, we were discussing with them, what are some of the trends that you guys see on a business side with your products? What towns and what states are putting in purchase orders for your esports equipment? And, a lot of the times it's Florida comes up on the list a lot. California always, considering their population, but Indy always came up on the map. When it comes to, finding, not only, individuals on their own buying equipment, but also, you're starting to see universities trying to get involved with esports. You're trying to see local community colleges starting to get involved with esports. And like I said, as we look at our business model, we always look to see how are we going to expand to the next state and what that next state is. And one of the big announcements we had is we officially we decided that Indy would be the next state that we move into when we decide to expand our brand. So after we finalize a couple things with the COVID and state representatives for Pennsylvania and New York, our next step is definitely going out to Indy and open up a esports facility. And considering now I know that your university has this program where it's the virtual speaker, and you have this group of zealous students who are interested with the sports management. We're going to definitely be reaching out to you guys to help us find staff, find interns to help us run our facility out there and get ROM Esports League in Indiana.
Boom. That was the big announcement. I love it. I love hearing anything coming to Indiana, right? Yeah, that's awesome, man.
Yeah.
I love it. I love that. Yeah. Brandon, I've known him several years, so that's awesome. I'm so super excited. He's going to come back to the Yard House.
Personally how much I love Indiana. I've been out there a few times and I always wanted to come back, but this is, these are some of the reasons why that's been keeping me from coming back out to Indiana. But, after visiting and then Indianapolis and being in the town, it's, I love the town. And like I said, every time Indiana came up on the list, we had a few people that said, I don't know, it may be a shot in the dark, but I knew deep down, I was like, if it's Indiana on the list, I'm going with Indiana over any state.
That's
So
awesome. That's
yeah,
awesome. I'm super excited. He doesn't have to come out to Indiana because the Pacers are so good at what they do on the statistician side
that
that
is
he
true
doesn't
too.
really need to come out here. So yes, I'm going to give a plug for Scott Fishman, myself, John Glessing, and Dave George because we are really good at our job.
Good guys, man.
Um,
Good guys.
Unfortunately, we didn't get to stay for the finals at the bubble,
Yeah.
but that's okay. There are better crews than us, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, so Brandon, one thing that's been talked about, and I'm going to get to you guys here shortly, right? Those in attendance. We're going to do something a little different today because you guys are going to turn on your video and ask Brandon some questions. Okay. So when you formulate your questions, make sure that you are ready to turn on your video. Okay. But there was one question, and IUPUI is very well known for its diversity, equity, and inclusion. Okay.
Mhm.
And what are the steps you guys are taking at ROM to kind of bridge that gap with diversity in gaming? I mean, and gaming is I'm not going to say it's probably one of the more diverse type of industries that
Yep.
could be out there because kids of all creeds, minorities, anything play video games if they can
Mhm.
afford it, right? So kind of talk about how you're going to bridge that gap with ROM.
Yeah, so a lot of the things that we're doing and the partnerships that we're making with some of the local high schools in the state of New Jersey is trying to get more minority face time when it comes to competing within esports because, again, a lot of these pro teams, aside from the actual NBA 2K League, which I think they do a phenomenal job of trying to be as diverse as possible and trying to be more, so to speak, fair when it comes to giving everybody an opportunity to compete and showcase their talent. And I really like how they do their draft combine to try to find their best players for their given respective teams for the NBA 2K League. So when it comes to that, I think they are the actual leaders when it comes to finding the best pool of players from all diversities for their league. But I think with us, we want to make sure that we're not in that realm of, contacting our partners at Activision, Epic Games and saying, hey, who are the best players in the state of New Jersey? Who are the best players in the state of Indiana when it comes to finding talent for a particular game for competitive gaming? We want to make sure that everybody has a fair opportunity to come out, showcase their talent, and have an equal opportunity to be selected and drafted for a respective team for our league. And I think the way that we are doing that is hosting all tryouts for every single respective team, capturing all the content so that the scouts and general managers for the teams are able to find the best players for their given team. And everybody has an equal opportunity to do that. And again, I don't think a lot of the pro teams that are out there are doing that because they're doing the opposite. They're reaching out to the partners. They're saying, hey, give me the top 100 players. Or, they're going to Twitch and seeing who is the most streamed, player that is currently streaming and, reach out to them and try to see if they have or want the ability to play for the professional team. I think that isn't a real good way of doing that because I think at that particular time of them doing that, I think it seems like they want to bring in their fans as well as the viewership because they're signing to a pro team opposed to someone who is really good, but they're sitting at home because they didn't have the fair opportunity to do that. But here at ROM, we want to make sure everybody has the equal opportunity to do that. And we're hoping, hosting open tries for every single game, for every single team that is a part of our league. And that's how we're going to find out who's the best player. And everyone is going to have a fair shot, whether, no matter who you are in any state.
So what games do you guys predominantly focus on?
So that's a really good question. So we try to focus on finding talent with multiple games, but the main ones that we really try to find a good pool for is Rocket League, which really hasn't had enough face time when it comes to their tournaments and their league. So we're big on Rocket League, but we do every game. We do 2K, we do Madden. We're going to be starting to do Apex, some Call of Duty as well. But again, this is the second part of our big announcement is, with our facility, with the hurdles that we had to go through, we really haven't had the opportunity to host some of our tournaments in person. But fortunate enough, we're, considering what our whole team had to go through over the last few months with the state and overcoming hurdles. I'm proud to announce that our grand opening for our facility here in New Jersey is going to be November 9th of 2020. So that's going to be our first tournaments we're going to be hosting. It's going to be Call of Duty. I'm sorry, Rocket League, and also a 2K tournament as well.
That's awesome, man. That's so awesome. You guys are going quick here. I mean, you're turning this stuff around quick.
Yeah, we're trying to. It's been a long battle, and I think we finally won it, and now's a perfect time to start start letting loose on a lot of the things that we've been holding up because we've been going through some of these battles on our end with local officials understanding what esports is and trying to on top of that get parents to understand it with their local high schools and some of the school ambassadors as well. Overcoming all those hurdles is something that's part of the esports, and like I said, if you don't really have that passion for gaming and sports and to combine both of those in two, it's really not something that you definitely want to do because it's going to be an uphill battle no matter what you are, whether you're a player, you're a coach, you're a scout, you're a general manager of an esports team. It's going to always be an uphill battle, and if you don't have that, then it's going to be I don't think it's going to be an industry for you because it's constant.
So think about this, okay, students. Think about the fact that esports is coming to Indy, right? ROM is going to come to Indy at some point in the next few years. And what does that mean, right? That could mean that now they could be looking at like some of you as players, some of you as staff, some of you as, any type of thing in that regard when it comes to esports, right? And you could take that passion that you have and maybe do something with it in a career, right? Because the potential does exist. So you got to tell me, I'm going to get candid with you for a moment, right? You got to tell me, how hard was this to do? I mean, A, setting up the venue, and B, just getting people to buy in.
Oh man, that is an amazing question. It was tremendously hard. When it comes to university students, high school students, they know when they hear esports, they understand it. And when they try to have their parents understand it, it's tough. So imagine having to not only have the parents to convince the parents, one, because without the parents, none of this would be possible. Think about it. Esports itself, if you didn't have that one player, when it comes to the first tournament that was hosted, if you didn't have all the parents on board saying that, hey, my kid, they can compete in this esports tournament. Granted, once they heard the numbers, that probably swayed them. But before they heard the numbers, they probably said, I'm pretty sure the absolute answer is no. I'm not having my kid, play video games. He's going to be I want to have the biggest thing that I hear. I want to have my kid make something of himself. And I don't think video games is the thing. So one, having the parents, winning them over to have these players and students go down the path, whether it's players, becoming a professional player, becoming a coach, a general manager, an owner of a team. You got to really think about esports. It's a brand new industry, but you have to compare it like another traditional sports, right? You got to have an owner of a team. You got to have a general manager of a team. You got to have an IT department of the team. You got to have players, coaches, scouts, training, regiments, everything dealing with the traditional sports. You have to have that with esports. And that's why it's such a booming industry because it's so new and there's so much talent that is required to order to run this industry. So again, overcoming the parents is the number one thing. Then you move, once you get the parents, you then go to your local, townships and you go to the hearings on having an esports team in your high school or a facility in your local town, which we had to do. We had to talk to local representatives after we won the parents to come to these hearings and to voice your concerns. Once you voice your concerns, then that's when you have the parents voice their concerns. And once they hear that the parents are on board in their local township, then that's when they say, all right, well, these are the people that are, particularly maybe voting for me. So in order for them to get that vote back, I got to listen to what they're demanding. And that's what it comes down to. So once you get that, then you move on to universities. And then sometimes, again, the sponsors and partners, hearing your business model, what you intend to do. Is there other companies out there that's currently doing what you're doing? And if so, how are you going to, compete with them because they've been out there already for X amount of years? All these things come into fruition when you start something like what I did. But I think the biggest thing that really helped me out is obviously having my wife, keeping my head on my shoulders, bouncing things off of her. And then on top of that, having a good group of people in your corner. Once you have your good group of people in your corner, you will understand some of the things that may not seem right. So you may have one thing set in your mind, and then you hear from your group saying, hey, I don't think that is a good route. Let's try something else. Then on top of that, you may have also, students in local universities that can help out as well. How can we get them into esports? Considering that they're majoring in sports management, how can we mold them to understand how to manage an esports team similar to a traditional esports team? How can we get them involved with coaching, just like a traditional sports when it comes to coaching? All that comes into fruition when you have all the parties coming together and understanding what esports is and how it can benefit everybody in the long run. But if you don't overcome those hurdles, it's going to be a huge battle. And luckily, I was able to overcome every single obstacle that came before me. And again, without the backing of the people that are in my corner when it comes to our senior leadership here at ROM, I wouldn't have done without them because we had a lot of discussions late at night on how we can go to the appeal process and present our case so that these committee members, these mayors can understand what we're trying to do and how it's going to be beneficial for not only high school students, but university students as well who are coming up on graduation and looking to get in esports in some type of form of sports management.
Notice how he said something about voting there. Everything ends up going political at some point, right? There's got to be politicians involved with that sort of stuff when you're trying to set up something new, right? Yeah, I just love the fact that you're like, yeah, that's awful, right? That's in your head. You're thinking, oh, that's awful. So tell me, I've been intrigued, right? I've looked at your stream, I've looked at your videos that you've put out there. What is behind you? What is all that stuff that's behind you? Just kind of, you don't have to give us the details, but break down what you got behind you.
So we wanted whenever I originally came up with the idea, and I made sure that I included individuals within the ROM circle, so to speak, that understood esports first and how we can build literally our esports league from scratch, right? So I just turned 30, and pretty much everybody who was part of the ROM are millennials. So a lot of the times when I have pitches with high schools or partners or sponsors that I'm looking to partner with, they always ask me as well, what is ROM? Why did you select? Big question is, what is ROM, and why did you select the orange and black colors to be in your logo? So I told them, in my view, and this is only my opinion, and I have multiple debates with other people that we have partnered with or at high schools that have, it can be an 8-hour debate. But in my opinion, the reason why I came up with the actual company name, which is ROM Esports League, the ROM stands for Rise of Millennials. And the reason why I named it Rise of Millennials is strictly because I think the esports industry really had a jump start when millennials start really hosting tournaments on an amateur level, right? So you have your small pop-up tournaments at, your friend's house or, your local community center or recreational facility. And I think we really got a jump start on this esports industry when it comes to competitive gaming. So when I always thought about what company name should I name it, I always wanted to symbolize something that is, something that's involved in me. And I consider that I'm a millennial. I wanted to name the company in a way to show that the esports industry was based off of the rise of millennials, the upcoming of these millennials, or these people who just want to play video games all day. Without them, this industry would be nowhere. Right? You always had your gamers way before millennials, right? I think the first competitive gaming, from what I was reading, was back in 2000. Right? That was the first actual competitive gaming, and that was for somebody who, I think he was in his 30s at the time in 2000. And again, when I go back to why I named the color, the actual league this, and why I choose my colors, I think it's all based on what I felt with the esports industry, and I think it needs to go back to why you built the company, and what objectives and morals you want to leave behind when it comes to your company itself. And so that's why I named the company, and why I chose the orange and black colors, is because I think it symbolizes, what I feel the esports industry is. And I feel that, how we can leave a huge footprint when it comes to the esports industry. Now, behind me, obviously with I can't we weren't able to do any of this without our sponsors and partners at HyperX, DX Racer, and Zoe. And without them, we wouldn't be able to do it. So we partner with all these companies to provide color code based equipment and hardware for a facility. So we have a 5v5 stations on both sides to simulate a similar competitive gaming match for 5v5. And then we have two 1v1 stations right smack dab in the middle that you can see here. And they're 1v1s is your Madden's 1v1. You can have your Smash Brothers 1v1s, anything dealing with first, only one player tournament type deals. And then obviously your 5v5s, you can go up to 2v2s, 3v3s, 4v4s, whatever the case may be. But we have our whole broadcasting studio set up here. We got an interview room as well, the post-game interview, where we do all the interviews for our players to give them FaceTime on with scouts and universities throughout the countries who are looking to potentially sign them to esports teams on universities or professionals as well. So we have a whole interview room as well, where we do our post-game interviews with our players, and then our one-on-ones as well, to get a bio type video with all of our players that we have a part of our league. So our facility just literally got completed, and we've officially got all of our permits and everything from the state not too long ago, which we're happy to announce that we're officially opening up November 9th.
And see, now this guy can actually fix all of those machines that are in there. So, that's helpful to have the guy be the owner who can just come in and go, oh, I just have to swap out that graphics card, right? That's always nice to have. Okay, yeah. So I'm going to open up the floor. I'm going to change our view here, and I'm going to open up the floor to the gallery. So of you folks that are in here, what you got to turn on your video. I'm going to have you ask the question, since we're doing it a little bit different today. So drop your questions for Brandon now. Who we got first? Who's going to be my first victim?
I can go first. All right. Hey, Brandon, my name's Kai. As Dr. Sherman and Kyle could tell you, I'm huge into esports. Recently getting into the industry because of COVID, and begun working for a small company in Indy. So I have a 2-part question for you. Mm-hmm. So do you see they call it NA? So we're so if you watch League of Legends Worlds tournament that's going on right now, NA is the laughing stock of the world, because like you said, we have no grassroots way to get talent. So our teams compared to Korean teams, Chinese teams, European teams are way behind. And that is, I think, because of the stigma, like you said, of people being somebody wants to grow up, be a video game player, and everybody's telling you, you know, that's a waste of time. You don't want to do that. So do you see us getting over that like video games are bad, not a livelihood stigma? And if so, in the next 5 years, where do you think the esports industry can be? Do you think it can be as big as traditional sports? Do you think it'll be a little bit less? What do you think?
He's punching you right in the face right off the start,
Man,
Brandon.
that is a amazing question, Kai, and uh, I think I can answer that. And again, these are just my opinions that I have, but considering the where we're at with esports and how big it's gotten just in this year alone, I think I think within the next 5 to 10 years, I think esports will probably be up there with the number one current traditional sport right now. And I think they would go neck and neck to um, I think they would definitely go neck and neck, and they will probably, and I think esports will outdo any traditional sports as far as viewership is concerned. I think they would be esports would be the number one viewed industry in the world in the next 5 to 10 years. And the reason why I say that is just because um, there are more people every single day that is getting involved with video games and competitive gaming. And the current rate that is happening is tremendous. And the only way to solve that issue is having companies like ours start out at the grassroots and amateur level to give these players a form of a platform to showcase their talent. So if you think about it, you know, the big traditional sports, right? You're looking for your favorite professional athlete who's been in, you know, doing it in football or basketball for X amount of years, right? But you still have that group of people that always want to see the best talent coming out of their state, right? All of you guys in Indy, you want to see, is there a football player or basketball player that can go pro and we can root for because they come from where we come from, right? If you have that opportunity or a platform in your state to do that, you're always going to have people rooting for players or anybody that comes from where you come from. That's like bottom line, right? You're always going to have your professional players who, you know, I'm a fan of LeBron or I'm a fan of, Dak Prescott or whoever it may be. But if they come from where you're from, you're always going to have to root for them because they come from where you are and you knew where they, you know, they started from the bottom and they potentially, you know, they pretty much made it to the top, right? That's what, you know, a big Drake quote, I'm started from the bottom, now I'm here, right? So that's what we try to aim to do, you know, starting from New Jersey, moving to Pennsylvania and the tri-state area, New York, and then what state is next? How can we help them to pretty much bring them into the realm of pretty much put them on the map, so to speak, and showcase what talent they have upcoming in their local town and state as well. So I think definitely esports in the next 5 or 10 years would definitely be number one, just because of the numbers I've seen this year alone.
It's a great answer. Chase, you look like you had a question.
Hey Brandon, my name's Chase. One of the more up and coming esports is Rainbow Six Siege. They had like one of their most popular ones, and the NA scene is going to like a strictly all LAN set up in Las Vegas as like their home base. So more worldwide, do you see more people in orgs and leagues going more LAN based for their games, or staying to online and then the tournaments is big LANs?
I think definitely it's going to go back to LAN just because you have these big teams. And I'm a huge Rainbow Six guy. I know you probably are just by, you know, the way you asked the question and your reaction. This is my question to you. Who did you play with Rainbow? Because my favorite operator is still Jaeger, but this is just a sidebar. Who's your favorite operator?
I like to use Valk.
Valkyrie. Okay. Very good. Valkyrie. I like her. That was actually my number one player before because I love her cameras that she threw up. But Jaeger is still my number one. I actually hate it when they did the update and removed the ACOG, but that's another battle in itself. But I definitely think every big esports team and pro team would definitely go to land, just because if you look at the Overwatch League, right? You have Fusion who's in Philadelphia. They were supposed to have their grand opening of their brand new arena this year, but then COVID happened, and now they were impacted by that financially, and now they're pretty much struggling to try to see if they're able to keep that arena afloat, uh, to host tournaments in persons as well as to have crowds. And I think if you look at traditional sports in itself overall, that is a big issue with anyone or any team that is, owners of stadiums, arenas. They're struggling because the COVID pandemic has really put a dagger right into their bulk of their money revenue. But as we continue to move forward with COVID and trying to implement safe measures with the mask wearing, the social distancing, limited capacity within your facility, I think slowly but surely they're going to start going back into arenas and hosting live tournaments, because that's where the bulk of the money is, right? Because if you're filling seats in your arena or stadium, that is something that you definitely want to keep within your business model, because it's probably more than likely the bulk of your revenue. But that's why we, again, here at Round, we try to focus on trying to get people out and go into a facility to compete in person. Because if you compete behind a monitor, anybody can do that around the world. Another thing is a big issue with competing online is, if you join a tournament, there are speculations where, and it's been seen to be true multiple times. You host online tournaments, and then you have pro players, logging in with these amateur accounts because the amateur player is giving them a portion of the prize pool to compete under their account to win money. And right, so if you do that and you go back onto these LAN tournaments where you have to do in person, all that is out of the window. The person who's competing for the tournament is the person that is validated by the league, validated by a team, and is actually the person that is competing within the tournament itself. But that's why a lot of the times we try to move away from hosting online tournaments, is just because of that, is the integrity of the game. We want to make sure that everybody is truthful and competing with their online accounts, and there's no way for us to validate if the person on the other side of that monitor remotely is actually who they say they are. So by having those in-person tournaments, that is obviously resolving that one issue that could potentially be harmful for a league or a team itself.
Brandon, that begs the question, could you get around that with making them stream, or it can only be streamers, or it kind of begs that question a little bit.
Yeah, so we can definitely resolve that issue. But again, from a grassroots or amateur level, it's having the technology and the infrastructure in place at your home to have the ability to do that. A lot of the players who are joining our league, which we've encountered this so far. They don't have the bandwidth to stream and to run a tournament or a match from their homes because of the bandwidth that they have for their internet service provider. But having them in here, we have a secure internet provider, and we have top-notch speeds. We're able to do that all in person. But if it gets down to that, even if they can't stream their video so that we can pick it up for our streaming on YouTube, Facebook, or Twitch, we still validate, hey, this is the person who they say they are. It's already validated. They're part of our league. They have their team has a structure with the coach, general manager, and they can validate it as well. Because at the end, if it comes down to that, they did go this route of hiring a professional player to compete remotely under their account, then obviously the team will suffer some consequences, and ultimately the player is going to lose their part of being in a team. But all that is something that is an uphill battle for us. But that's something that we're constantly observing and trying to see if we can provide resources to help these players get the needed infrastructure and technology in their homes to be able to compete, if that is the case in the near future.
It doesn't seem like it's not it's just you guys, right, that are suffering through that. It seems like that's an industry trend.
Oh yeah.
So if you don't have the bandwidth, right, then I guess you're offering not just a grassroots effort to recruit the player, but also give the player the opportunity to showcase their skills in a place that maybe could lead them somewhere. It may not lead them to a pro contract or whatever,
Yes.
but it could be they're at least getting the chance to play. So that's the best part about this, in my opinion, is having that venue gives you the opportunity to allow those kids the opportunity to compete. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
So kudos to you for that, because that's impressive.
Yeah, it's a like I said, it's an uphill battle that we constantly observing and trying to see that, if this, so to speak, to happen again where there's a lockdown like we had in New Jersey, and practically you can't go nowhere unless you're going to a grocery store to pick up groceries, and you had to be at home all day. Um, that's why we're selective on who we try to partner with, right? We try to partner with, you know, Zoe, DX Racer, HyperX, Verizon, Champion, all these other technology companies to try to see, hey, if we partner with you and this does happen, is there some form of technology or discount you can provide these players that are part of our league to get the needed infrastructure in place at home so that they can constantly compete to, for a career job. If it's something that we can do to provide any form of assistance with our partners, that's why we strive to be selective on who we partner with, and also on top of that, having the players and coaches and all the staff a part of a team to benefit from that partnership as well.
I'm kind of taken away from the students for a moment because I'm just curious in and of myself. How do you see this as being, and I hate to say it, I guess a deterrent from the streets? Do you see that as being an impact on maybe post school what kids are doing activity wise? I mean, you growing up as an exennial, I'm not a millennial, I'm an Xer / millennial, but as an exennial, I got to hear about being on the street. I got to hear about growing up with life on the street, things like that. And some of these kids we're talking about Jersey. I mean, there's some places in Jersey that, I know one off the top of my head. I'm not going to name it, but I know one off the top of my head where I had friends from there that talked about it. So do you see that as being a deterrent for these kids?
That's one of the main points that I strive to mention to anybody who I'm actively coming across as a roadblock when it comes to understanding esports. That is the number one topic I always speak upon. It's going to save your kids from going out and doing, getting into trouble after school, going to do this. We every time that we go and visit and we make this pitch to, we look at everything stats wise when it comes to, kids getting in trouble, local high schools, I hate to say it, but drug abuse as well in local townships. All this comes from kids not having an outreach program after school, and once they get out of school, they get up, they link up with their buddies and they go do whatever. But with us, we partner with the high schools, and then they pitch it to these kids and also the parents. Hey, this is an outreach program where you guys, your students can join this league and compete to try to make, a professional team or get better in a particular game that they want to do, and then get recognized for it, right? So if the kids hear that, especially if you're in high school, junior high, you hear that, you're obviously locked in, because 95% of kids in junior high school and high school play video games. That's 95% in the whole in the whole country of the United States. So when they hear that, we know that 100% of these kids are wanting to be involved with that and trying to see how they can better themselves in competitive gaming. And then on top of that, some high schools are saying that, if you do X amount of hours at Rami Sports League, and it's proof from the league that you did these X amount of hours based on your login hours with your badge, you get, 1 day off, or it can be attributed to your academic performance for one type of course that you're taking in a university or high school. All these things is to help the students to realize that you don't need to go out and get in trouble. these are the programs that we're setting up to help benefit you not only academically, but also to help you with your passion, whether you're trying to get into esports as a player, coach, sports management, GM, anything that you want to do, we're trying to help you out. And that's the main pitch that we try to make with these high schools.
Yeah, it has to be one of the biggest selling points to incentivize going and playing video games and saying the more hours you put in, the more time you're off the street. The kid ain't thinking about that, but everybody else in the community is, right? And then you get reward for it. You get a high grade on something. I don't know. That's to me, that makes perfect sense. Kyle, you had something, I think.
Yeah, I guess I could ask. So obviously Fortnite hosted the World Cup 3 years ago. How big of an impact do you think that had on like prize money and tournaments in themselves? Because I mean, that was a $30 million tournament. So, and you never saw like that kind of money in video games before. Now you're seeing, weekly Call of Duty tournaments for, a couple $1 million and stuff like that.
Yeah. So that's actually, I'm going to be honest, when leading up into this, I always knew that I was going to do this company and build it out. I just didn't know how long it was going to take. So when I heard about the Fortnite tournament, that you're referring to, the one that was right here in New York, correct?
Yeah. The World Cup that filled the U.S. Open tennis arena.
Yeah. So when I was, again, when I had the idea, it was just, an idea, and I knew that I started it, but I just didn't know how long it was going to do, take to get jump started and obviously opened up. But when I literally watched that whole tournament from beginning to end, that Fortnite tournament. And when I realized, the person who won it was, he was a semi-pro player, Benga, but he really, I'm telling you, man, when he won that tournament, and I realized, I'm like, dude, this kid is 16 years old and he won literally. I think his part of that 30 million was like 3 million or something like that.
Yeah, it was something like that.
And when I realized like he won that tournament he won that prize pool for one tournament. I said, imagine what can happen for multiple tournaments throughout the whole year and how much money you can make from just playing video games and competitive gaming. Yeah. So and honestly, when that tournament happened right here in New York, and I can't believe the amount of, viewership, especially or marketing and brand activation that we've seen over here in the tri-state area for the Fortnite, because everywhere you looked, whether you're in Jersey, Pennsylvania, or New York, you've seen Fortnite and the World Cup everywhere. You can be driving down, the turnpike over here. You can be driving down the Parkway, and you've seen nothing but advertising for the Fortnite. So in that aspect, I really think the Fortnite and Epic Gaming's really helped out the tri-state area by hosting the World Cup over here in New York. But at the same time, I think honestly, that's what really put esports as a solidified industry within the world itself. That one tournament, when they realized, the amount of parents that reached out to me once they heard that I was opening up here in New Jersey, they were like, is this the same type of thing that young kid won for 7 million? They always get the price wrong, or they always get something wrong. And I'm like, yeah, the kid that won up in New York, the 3 million with the four. She goes, yeah, my kid plays that. You saying he can win that, in one of your tournaments? I go, it's a long shot if we can get a sponsor for $3 million for a tournament. But yes, that's in essence, that's exactly what is, what we're trying to accomplish. And to be honest, I think if any kid who has a desire to compete in Rainbow Six, 2K, Fortnite, Call of Duty, the parents should definitely hear them out and realize how they can help their kid to get to where they want to be when it comes to competitive gaming. And like you said, I think that whole Fortnite World Cup that year, I really think it really put esports industry on the map. Especially because Benga was only 16 years old. It was a one tournament payout. And if you have multiple payouts for someone like him, who's really good at the game, he can literally pull in a lot of money in competing with, within the esports industry itself. So in that aspect, I think, it really helps us out, considering that we are opening up in tri-state. But again, it's something that I think I'm going to remember for a long time, because it's because I experienced it firsthand because I live out here. And again, I think that really helped out the esports industry itself.
Zach, you looked like you had a question.
Yeah, I did. Uh, hey, Brandon, I'm Zach. Nice to meet you.
Hey, Zach.
So you talked about how one of the main games that you guys are working with is Rocket League.
Yep.
Do you see that game like keep gaining popularity even though it is kind of older and the gameplay really doesn't change that much?
I think so. And the only reason why I think it's going to really grow in popularity is because of their structure in their game. So right now, the max you can do in Rocket League is 3v3. And for us, that's one of the main reasons why we're really we're trying to actually get some sponsorship from their actual Rocket League to help them find some talent within the New Jersey area to help them fill some of their spots that they have for their upcoming tournament as well. But I think they're unique in with their setup because, again, the max amount of players is a 3v3, and it's perfect for a lot of the COVID regulations for every state. When it comes to capacity that you're allowed within your facility, for us, especially with New Jersey, we're only maxed out at 25%. So we're only able to host tournaments with, a 3v3 type format. And Rocket League is a perfect setup for that. So in that regard, I think Rocket League would definitely start becoming popular over the next, couple years, just because of that aspect alone, because, all these tournaments that are happening in person, you can't have a 5v5 setup or tournament being ran in your facility because of the social distancing requirements that are required by state and local regulations. But I think Rocket League would definitely start gaining some momentum here in the next year, and I think it's going to be here for a long haul. What the thing is about it is, once you start watching a particular game and you find excitement in it, and it's something not only you're familiar with if you're esports or gamer, it's probably a game that you already played or have paid or played. And so when you get involved with viewing that game and somebody who's competing in your state or your local town, that itself as well, you're going to start rooting for them and want to get involved with that particular game. So I definitely think Rocket League is going to be really have a lot of viewership and a lot of visibility over the next year or two because of that unique format where it's maxed out at 3v3.
What about the rest of you? I've got a few more on here. Reagan, Luke, Willie, Logan, nothing. Kai, Chase, more questions. Kyle, Willie?
Yeah, I can ask a question. Hi, Brandon. My name's Willie.
Willie.
You talked about coming to Indianapolis, and one of my questions is just what kind of things would you be looking for an intern or someone to add to your staff? What would stand out for what kind of people are you looking for, I guess?
That's a great question, Willie. So as we continue to expand, so our format for our esports league, we're opening up facilities similar to this, where we host 5v5 tournaments, 1v1 tournaments as well. And the big thing that we look for in each state is from bottom. And we're actively looking for these positions not only in Pennsylvania and New York as well, but Delaware as well is. And I think the only reason why we're looking at Delaware is because of the amount of people who, and some of the viewership. I'm sorry, the documents that we were reading for local universities down there and surveys. There's a huge group of individuals in a lot of universities in Delaware, particularly, that play Rocket League. So that's the number one reason why we're trying to aggressively see if we can do something with Delaware. But the main thing that we're looking for is individuals who are in the sports management background, who are looking to get into the career of sports. And you obviously have to have a huge passion for gaming, obviously, because it's the esports industry. But from top and bottom, we're looking for a GM to pretty much be the general manager for a facility, and oversee the operations that happen within that hub. And then under that, we're looking for coaches slash team owners for those respective teams in that area. So, you have your coaches slash your team owners, because obviously they can be both if they choose to be. And then obviously you have your scouts under that to help scout out particular players throughout the state of Indiana. And then obviously you have to find individuals to go out and try to find the players to join, the tournaments that are coming up, and also the actual open tryouts as well. So it's if you think about traditional sports and how that is ran and operated, it's exactly similar to how we're doing it here at Rami Sports League. You have to have somebody who's running the whole facility, and then everybody else who reports under them back with again, the coaches, team owners, scouts, and then obviously the players who are playing on the individual esports teams as well.
Good question, Willie. Who else?
Very
Anybody
good
got another
question.
question? Yeah. No other questions?
I had one.
Go ahead, Chase.
So with traditional sports, obviously the games don't change. Like you'll have rule changes, like 8-second violations, illegal defenses in basketball. But the games themselves change in popularity. Like Kai brought up earlier, League of Legends. There's like Dota, which is a completely different game, kind of similar. But then you have like games like CS 1.6. Then when CS:GO came out, it was, do we go to the new one or do we stay at this old one? So how would the esports scene in general handle all the game changes in the future when more popular genres pop up, like Apex and Fortnite with the survival?
That's a really, really good question. And so the way we're going to be doing it here at Rami Sports League, so obviously we have the main league, which is headquartered right here in New Jersey. As those changes come out for those respective games, that's why we want to definitely have these GMs that are overseeing these facilities that we have across the whole country. Once we see that trend happening with again with those respective games, we then have discussions with local GMs to see if they can gauge their team owners, coaches with their respective players. And then based on the data that they get back, then, they report back to the league and say, hey, this is what we were able to bring back from our local township or our local state. And then based off of, the commute, all the data that we get together, collaborating on for that respective game, then we make a decision as a league to say, all right, this is the route we decide to go, and this is how we're going to trickle it down to all the facilities throughout the within our esports league here. And I think the biggest thing about that is having those GMs in places, and also those coaches and owners of these teams, and trying to get them to understand that, hey, these are the responsibilities if you're in that GM position. This is the responsibility of the owner slash coach if you're in that position. It's a don't get it wrong. If you're talking about esports and the esports industry and having a career within that, within the industry itself, even though it's video games, you would never want to downplay it as if it's not like a traditional sport. The way you go about running your team or coaching your team or running your facility as a GM is really going to set you apart from other small pop-up mom shops that you may have in your local township, or to show that, hey, our state takes esports and being a part of Rami Sports League seriously, and this is how we're doing it based on the talent that we're presenting from our state. So based on, again, the changes that are coming about with different games and some of the rule changes that are happening, we will approach that as a league perspective, and we will engage local owners and teams, owners and coaches, as well as the GMs for those facilities to best understand how the trend is going to impact the players and get their viewpoint of it. And then we'll make a decision as a league on how we can approach that. So it's affecting not only the players, but also it's in line with other professional teams if they have the ability to sign with a professional team while they're with us.
Okay, I think we got maybe time for one more. Anybody want to take that lead?
I'll ask a quick question, I guess.
Sweet.
Hi, Brandon. So talked about like esports up and coming. I'm not too big in the gaming, but how do you think you'll reach like that casual fan for them to not watch traditional sport, to watch an esport event instead?
It's a great question.
That is a really good question. I think the biggest thing is marketing of the players. If you have someone, similar to you who really isn't a video game player, but you come to find out that somebody in, whether it's your high school, your friend, your university, and they're competing for a state title to represent your state for a national title. That's how we pull in those type of people who really don't play video games or don't play video games at all. We do it based on marketing of the player, and that's what the main mission. One of the main missions that we have here at ROM is making sure that anything that we do on any platform that we have, we always try to market the player, and based on marketing the player, they get their visibility out. Because again, if you are just one of those players who are really good, but you don't make the top 100 list so that the other pro teams or other pro organizations don't see you, we are here to provide a platform so that you can be seen. And based off of that, the content that we capture, the excitement, even the downfalls, the interviews with the players, post game and mid game as well, all that is going to help give them a platform to showcase not only themselves but also their talent and their excitement when it comes to competitive gaming. But I think based on like you said, those who don't play video games, and also parents, if they see their kid on Twitch, YouTube, or Facebook on one of those ad while they're scrolling through, and they send a screenshot and they say, hey, is this your son? And if she's like, yeah, where do you see that? Oh, it's a video that I seen on Facebook and one of the ads, and it's showcasing him. All that plays a part on showcasing the talent of the players so that they can have the opportunity to make it professional. And it all comes down to, as well, those GMs, those coaches, those owners of those teams in respective areas. All that plays in under their responsibility as well, to make sure that their players are being showcased in a way that gives them visibility to make it professional, whatever they do.
All right, Brandon, this has been the, I guess you could say, the not traditional way of doing the webinar that we've done in the past, but I'm always going to end it this way. I always have one way of ending it, and that's usually it's career advice or it's something, right? Instead, I'm going to open it to whatever you want it to be, but I always let my guests give me one parting shot, right? One last tip, advice, whatever you might think of, right? That just can be that one quote that you want to leave us with. What would you say as your final parting shot?
My final parting shot would probably be get an esports team in your university, and it's up to not only you yourself, but also you guys as well, who are majoring in sports management or looking to trying to find roles within sports management. I honestly think if you guys get an esports team in your university, that will jumpstart your career 100-fold. Because again, in my opinion, I think esports will be the number one watched sport more than any other traditional sports in the next 5 or 10 years. And by you guys having the esports program within your university, you're jumpstarting that to get ahead of the curve. Because the last thing you want to do is be behind the curve, and then now you're scrambling to trying to find out how you can get an esports team, and is there other universities in the state that's already doing it? Getting ahead of the curve, getting an esports team, and trying to manage out that esports team, and trying to build on that, the foundation of the esports team, on managing it, making sure we're finding the right talent pool, whatever the case may be. Getting involved now would definitely help you guys tenfold when it comes to leaving university and finding a full-time job within the esports facility, esports realm itself. But that would be my short, my parting shot is get an esports team in the university and get ahead of the curve while it's now.
I always put my guests on the spot right at the end, just to see what they have to say, and that's the advice that we are always looking for, is something like what you just said. So, hey, everybody in the crowd, thank Brandon. Say thank you, wave, clap, whatever you want to do. Give him a round of applause. Thanks for coming on and making
Thank you for
your
having me.
big announcement. Oh man, what awesome. I mean, it was just different than what we've done, but it was awesome. And I tell you what, I'd love to do more. I'd love to have you on weekly, to be completely honest with you, because a lot of fun. So just to let you guys know, preview tomorrow. We've got 2 on tap for tomorrow. Tomorrow we start at 1:30 with Megan Cramper and Amy DeLeon from Indiana University Athletic Department. They're going to come on and offer some advice for anyone wanting to go into college sports. And then tomorrow night, we've got some guests, Joanne Malcheski and Reese Oliver, right? Kyle threw me off because he called him Oliver Reese one time. But Reese Oliver and Joanne Malcheski from the Green Bay Packers will be coming on at 6 o'clock tomorrow night. So get registered if you haven't already. Get online, watch both of these, take part in it, and ask some questions. And Brandon, once again, thank you. If you want to hang out for a minute afterward, we can do that. But thank you guys for attending today, and we will see you tomorrow. Hopefully we'll see you all tomorrow.
Thank you for having me, guys.